Welcome to Fight Week on 5, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Jonathan, a.k.a. Three-Piece Combo, and I'm joined today by my friend, Mr. Alfredo Artiaga. How you doing, my friend?
Great.
Awesome, man. And
not as good as the super lightweight division in boxing, but right? Pretty good.
It's hard to stack up as being that stacked in happiness as far as how that division goes. But two amazing fights. We saw Lomachenko just absolutely destroy Nakatani. It was just an absolute masterclass. And then Tank Davis, man, going down, starting off a little bit slow, gave away the first 4 rounds easily. Those first 4 were absolutely Mario Barrios, but came out strong. Mayweather gave him an inspiring speech towards the end, and he finished it. Right, he was hitting those shots, and he ended up finishing it late in the 11th or 12th.
11th round.
11th round. Nice. So break down what you saw for me from that Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios fight.
Okay, you got me?
There we go. You're back now. Yeah, I lost you for a second.
All right. Like, if you watch that fight had a big fight feel. Like, place was packed. Barrios came to fight. I thought he fought a great fight. Okay, he had nothing to hang his head about. But you got the sense, like, I think about the 6th round, you got the sense that sense of foreboding. You know what I mean?
The tide is turning.
Yeah, not only is the tide turning, but you're not scared, you're not afraid, but you have that feeling. Like when you watch a horror movie and you're sitting there and you're like, something's about to happen. That's what Gervonta Davis, his fights are like now. Like in the MMA and the UFC, Francis Ngannou gives you that feeling, right? That feeling of foreboding where you don't want to get up to go to the bathroom, you don't want to get up to go get a drink, because if you turn your head, it could end, right?
Bang.
And that's what Gervonta Davis is. Yeah, he is an absolute star. I thought this was a great performance. I think he solidified himself. I'm not going to say best in class, because as it stacks, and we're going to talk about this, but as it stacks right now, he is not the unified champ at 135, and he's not the unified champ at 140. We actually have 2 unified champs. One at 135, Teofimo Lopez. One at 140, Josh Taylor. So, which one does he want?
It's going to be interesting to see, because, now he showed at 140 he still has that power to put you down, right? Mm-hmm. Coming into this fight, just, the logistics of this fight, coming in 5.5 inches shorter, right? This was the tallest opponent that Tank Davis has ever fought. And for somebody that relies on getting inside and getting that power on you, this was going to be a true test to see if he was going to be able to stack up against those lengthier guys, right? His last fight against Leo Santa Cruz, he was fighting a guy that's coming up to face him, right? And now he was going up against a guy that a lot more range, right? And somebody that's undefeated as well. Somebody who's, somebody's had to go in that fight. And it came out in the first 4 rounds, like we were, talking about a little bit before we started here, Barrios just kind of outvolumed him, right? He was hitting him with a jab. Tank was reluctant to come back, but I think it was around the 5th round when actually Tank starts to come in and he starts hitting some of those shots. You see him actually walking Barrios down, because those first 4 rounds, Tank was backing up every single moment. There wasn't one instance where he was going forward. But from the 5th round, the tide started turning. 6th, went back to Barrios. 7th, I think, was the best round, because that's where he dropped him twice. I think it was in the 7th round. And, man, from there, that was just an absolute masterclass. He came out. He started hitting him with those straight lefts, those left hooks to the body. Barrios was doing his thing, man. After that first droppage, where he actually, he faked the jab, went around over the top with the hook. The next round, Barrios came and did the same thing to him and actually stunned Tank Davis. So that fight had a lot of drama. Even after the rounds, that Barrios got dropped, the next round he came back and won that round. And it was a lot of storyline within the fight, right? Just scoreline was kind of, who's winning these rounds. There was 3 or 4 rounds that were really close. Really close. So it was hard to call that fight. Let me ask you, how did you score that fight going into the 10th round?
Oh, I had Barrios ahead, but not by much. I thought the tide was turning because the effective punching was all coming from Tank Davis from the 6th round on. So I tend to, put a finger on the scale for Gervonta starting in around the 6th round. But I had Barrios ahead by maybe 2 rounds. you could have made a case that maybe, it would have been one of those fights that had it just gone the way had the fight ended right there and had it gone to the scorecards, and you had told me Tank Davis won by 2 rounds, I wasn't going to argue. Had you told me it was a draw, I wasn't going to argue.
Right.
Had you told me Barrios eked out a win, yeah, I wouldn't have argued either. It was that close of a fight, but you never really got the sense that Barrios was going to be able to finish this fight on his feet and actually win, because you kind of saw already by the 8th round, you were thinking, you know what, for Barrios to win this fight, he's going to have to close the show. He might even have to hurt Tank Davis at least once, at least for the judges, to at least show the judges, look, everything that I put in for these 10, 11 rounds actually did something, I wasn't really just shoe shining him all fight. Right. I was actually hitting him with real shots. But, I think Tank Davis came out of this fight. I think that's as good as it could have gone, really. And some people will say, well, wouldn't you have wanted him to see him dust him off in the first 30 seconds of the first round? No, because then people would have said Barrios was completely overrated and didn't belong in the ring with Tank Davis. But in the lead up to the fight, everybody was saying, and I thought so too. I had seen Barrios fight before. Everybody thought this was going to be one of the tougher opponents for Tank Davis. Everybody knew that the best fighter he ever fought was Leo Santa Cruz, because he's a Hall of Famer. But let's face it, Leo Santa Cruz is not a 136-pounder.
Right.
Okay? He made his bones at 126 and 130. All right? When he goes into the Boxing Hall of Fame, nobody's going to say, super lightweight. Everybody's going to say, no, he was a lightweight champion, and he was a junior lightweight champion at 126 and at 130, and that's why he's in the Hall of Fame. So I thought this was his best performance against his best opponent. So arrow all the way up for Gervonta Davis.
And just to add a little bit of the storyline, right? You had Floyd Mayweather on the side of the ring, coaching him, talking to him like, "Hey, you're down."
I was a little bit annoyed for that. Not for Floyd. Hey, it's his guy, right? Like, he's the one who, like Floyd says, I found him as a pup, and I'm bringing him up, and now, I knew he could bite as soon as I saw him, because he's been training him since he was like 14.
Wow. Okay.
So, but I was a little annoyed for his coaches, because Gervonta Davis has a really good team behind him. He has the money team behind him. Okay. And then you have a guy that's getting off of his seat in the front row and is coaching through the ropes.
With 9 chains on.
With 9 chains. Yeah, he looked like Mr. T. Like, he had his house around my neck, around his neck.
Right? A couple of other people. I'm pretty sure those houses are. Pretty sure he had the whole 5 Reasons Sports Network's houses
around his neck. So I was a little bit annoyed. I was like, man, if you want to be that involved, go become chief second. Look, you already have a boxing license. You used to be a boxer, right? So it's easier for you to be a chief second. You know what I mean? Just be a chief second. I just thought it's a little bit emasculating when you have your coach that's been with you for months, and then you have a guy just shouting instructions, and your fighter is listening to him. You know what I mean? Although, if you noticed, I think it was the 7th round when Gervonta Davis actually snapped back at Mayweather. Yeah. Like, told him, hey, I'm doing my work. Calm down. So that was the only thing. But, I think that for the next fight, Mayweather should just, put on your gear, your Gervonta Davis gear, and become chief second.
I mean, if you want to go out there and have your, like you said, give that advice and do that instead of standing outside of the ring, just get in the ring. Instead of, like you said, emasculating the coaches, making the coaches feel like they're there to do nothing.
Yeah.
Be there to fill a role. Not to take away from somebody else. So I think I liked it because it was kind of him feeding in to like, hey, you have to win this fight. Like, you might be down on the scorecard. So I can understand and see where you'd want to take a little bit of negative from it, because that's not his job really, right? He's really just a fan going to do help him out and help his dog out really. But
hey, he gave him a sense of urgency.
Exactly, that's what I say. Right before it, go ahead.
Yeah, and Gervonta Davis, like right before all of that happened, like you got to admit, he was headed to defeat. Like, who knows what would have happened from then on? Then he started picking it up. His punches started having a little bit more pop. And he was starting to try to put things together, and you could just see it. It was coming from once he dropped them twice. You could see it's a matter of time. 12 rounds is just way too long for Barrios to make it. Like, you just knew it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And then, sure enough, we saw it when it did.
Yeah, I mean, it was going after round 7. I had it either 4-3 Barrios or 5-2 Barrios. right? And that's when the tide turns, because round 8 is when he dropped him twice, and from there it was going to be either 5-4 Davis or 5-4 Barrios if he was, if we took the 7 for the last one. So going into the 10th round, it was either 5-5 or either 5-5 or 6-4. So we were not sure really who was going in, even if you would have dropped counted the the 10-7 or 10-8 with the 2 droppages in that round. So like we said, once Mayweather was like, hey man, you have to go and you have to perform, that next round he finished him, right? He hit him with that beautiful left hook to the body that dropped him. And then once he smelled blood, he cornered him into the ropes. He hit him with a nice, not sure if it was a straight left, or I'm pretty sure it was a straight left right down the pipe. And from there, Barrios was kind of done. The referee saw it in his eyes, and I think it was a great stoppage. Any argument on the stoppage there?
No argument. Gervonta Davis can hurt you and will hurt you. Like, if you get up, it's his job to put you down again. And Barrios was just headed for more punishment, if they let the fight go on.
For sure.
So
absolutely.
I had no problem whatsoever with the stoppage. Some people were saying, let him go out on his shield. No, not in this case.
No, and he took a lot of damage. He took a lot of damage.
Yeah, going out on his shield in this case could have been going out on a stretcher. You never want to see something like that, especially Barrios. Barrios is a young guy. He has his entire career. Maybe his career is not championship good against this group.
Right.
But who knows? Maybe these guys move on, and maybe, he has a second wind in his career, and maybe he'll become champ down the line at 140.
You got to save him, man. And we want to say what's up to our visions. He actually had a question, and I'll hand this one off to you. But what's your thoughts on the Pacquiao versus Spence?
Well, Pacquiao's magic, right? And nobody thought, look, Manny Pacquiao was going to fight a guy called Lucas Matisse. It was a few years back. Man, I don't have it off the top of my head, but if you could look it up, you can let me know. But he was going to fight a guy called Lucas Matisse. Lucas Matisse is this Argentinian killer, all right? He hits like a ton of bricks. I thought, and my one of my friends who we watch a lot of boxing with, we thought Manny Pacquiao could get killed in that fight. And when we say killed, not knocked out and losing the fight, I'm talking about he could get physically hurt in that fight. He absolutely demolished Lucas Matisse in that fight. Then he signs a fight against Keith Thurman, and everybody thinks he's crazy. How is this old man going to fight one of the young lions and one of the best at 147?
I'm pretty sure he was knocking everybody out, too, and straight going into that fight.
Yes. And everybody was saying, okay, this is ridiculous. Like some, and I'm not going to mention who, Max Kellerman, but a lot of people on ESPN were saying that fight had a little bit of, what was the word that they used? Immoral. Like it was almost immoral to make a fight like that, right? Think about it. Like, let's say, would you book a fight with John?
I think we lost you there for a second there.
All right, you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. Against John, what do you say, John Jones?
Okay, would you book a fight with John Jones against Shogun Rua today? No, right? It would
be like John Jones against Royce Gracie right now,
or John Jones against Royce Gracie, or John Jones against Dan Henderson. Like it would be a little bit immoral, right? Some people were saying, look, Pacquiao fighting Keith Thurman is a little bit immoral. What's going to happen here is that Keith Thurman is going to destroy Pacquiao, knock him out, and then that'll be the end of Pacquiao, and Keith Thurman gets to get a big head on his wall, right? That's not what happened. Pacquiao not only knocked down Keith Thurman, but kind of dominated him for most of the fight.
Yeah.
Won a decision. So, he's magic. Now, can he do this against Errol Spence? Man, I'm going to say it again. Like, I think it's a terrible matchup for Manny Pacquiao. He's fast. His signature is his speed and his left hook. Well, Errol Spence is faster with a better left hook, more power, bigger guy. So I don't know. It's a terrible matchup, but Manny Pacquiao has that magic. And, remember, I don't know where the fight is going to be. I think it's going to be in Dallas, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be there.
So, all the rumors about, Manny Pacquiao, every time he goes to the Philippines, he's in the Philippines right now. Every time he goes to the Philippines, he comes back and he's like, stronger. So I don't know if he's going to bring some of that juice from the Philippines.
Maybe
and they'll let him use it in Texas, but if there's a guy that could pull off something ridiculous, it'll be Manny Pacquiao. I just don't think it could happen. We're talking 41 years, man.
It's a little bit overdue. It's a little overdue.
Yeah,
you only have that magic for so long.
I think, I think he went to the well against Keith Thurman and he emptied it out. You know what I mean? And he said, "Look, this is all I got left right here." You know, and it was a hell of a show. It was a hell of a magic trick, but doing it twice, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to repeat that. Hey, and if he does, we'll be biting our words here. But let's get back into this one. Let's look at what's next for Tank Davis, because he has kind of a couple options right now. He has the option to stay at 135, or go back down to 135. You have Teofimo Lopez, you have Devin Haney, you have some of those guys down there, or Josh Taylor is unified at 140 pounds. You have a little bit better knowledge of, probably what he should do next. What's your opinion of where he should go next? Should he stay at go back down to 135, kind of build back up there, given how tough of a fight this was at 140, or should he just cash in all his chips now that he's proven that he has that power 140, that he can put you down at 140, that he's dangerous there too, and just go ahead and go for the unification at 140?
Yeah, Tank Davis he's the draw now. All right, I got you.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I hear you.
All right, Gervonta Davis is the draw now. All right, as long as guys are not fighting, and Teofimo Lopez, it's not his fault. He should have fought already. He has George Kambosos Jr. in August, I believe. It's not his fault. He got COVID, so he couldn't fight last month. All right, so it's not really his fault that he wasn't active and you didn't get to see him before this fight went off. Who's the draw, right? Like, who is the draw? This fight against George Kambosos is going to take place on Triller. I don't know what they're going to charge for it, but we already know that Gervonta Davis is a pay-per-view star, okay? Right. And he's with Showtime Pay-Per-View, PBC. Here's the problem. Josh Taylor is a top-ranked guy. Teofimo Lopez is a top-ranked guy. Can they make that fight? I don't know. But you know what fight they can make, right? What about Devin Haney? Devin Haney's a DAZN guy. DAZN and PBC have shown that they can do business before. Ryan Garcia is still out there. He's a DAZN guy. Everybody else is still there for the taking. You know who I would love to see him fight at 140? Regis Progress. If you can't make those fights, if you can't make Teofimo Lopez, you can't make Josh Taylor, and more likely than not, I think Teofimo Lopez is going to want Josh Taylor because now they're allowing to hold two belts at the same time as long as you defend within, I think it's 2 years. So Teofimo Lopez could fight Josh Taylor. They could put both belts up on the line, and then you could have a champ from 135 all the way to 140, and then he could just go back and forth defending at 135 and 140. Let's face it, it's 5 pounds, okay? Like, they can do it, okay?
That's nothing.
So if that's more likely. I think Teofimo Lopez against Josh Taylor is very likely in the near future. Gervonta Davis, man, there's a lot of money there, but, you can make a lot of money elsewhere. I think that the fights, Regis Progress is the guy who is dying to get his name out there. Everybody's afraid of him. Nobody wants to make fights with him. Okay, Gervonta Davis. How about that? All right. Like, he's a guy who he says everybody ducks him. Okay, how about Gervonta Davis? You beat Gervonta Davis, you can rate your ticket, right? So I think that's a fight that could come off. Devin Haney's a possibility. Ryan Garcia is a possibility. Or, Bob Arum has this thing where, he can be petty, especially with PBC. Right? And he's had issues. Well, he had issues with Terrence Crawford trying to make the fight with Errol Spence, right? Who's to say that Bob Arum, remember, he controls Lomachenko. Who's to say he throws that bait out there and Gervonta Davis bites? And if there is a guy that I would pick over Gervonta Davis, it's Vasily Lomachenko. And he's probably the only guy I would pick right now over Gervonta Davis, which is odd, right? Because he lost to Teofimo Lopez.
Right.
But the problem is that Teofimo Lopez, he likes to taste the blood too much. He likes to trade a little bit too much. Vasily Lomachenko, I think, is a guy that can dance through the raindrops and beat Tank Davis like 10 rounds to 2. Like, he can do it.
I mean, we saw in the first 4 rounds, that's kind of what Barrios did, right? He just kind of stayed outside, did his thing. And let's get into that next fight a little bit because, Lomachenko.
Well, we saw it with Leo Santa Cruz.
Right.
If you remember, we did a show leading up to that fight, and I said it's entirely possible. Because remember, I picked an 8th round knockout by Gervonta Davis, but I said it's entirely possible that at the point where Gervonta Davis knocks out Leo Santa Cruz, that Leo Santa Cruz could be up 8 rounds to nothing. You saw that fight.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think he was up? One of the judges had it 7-1, and I didn't disagree.
Right. It was if he won one round, that was it.
Yeah. But then he hit him with that left,
the uppercut from hell.
Yes. So yeah, Vasily Lomachenko, that's the guy, and it could be Bob Arum could be that petty.
And if he gets that belt back on his brand, that's a little bit that's something for something to look out for.
Hey, but then again, man, Gervonta Davis is the money team. They're not called the money team for no reason. They're not.
They know
stupid.
what they're doing. They know. What they're doing.
You think that they're going to take the bait of fighting a Vasily Lomachenko? You think that they're convinced like Gervonta Davis could dust off Vasily Lomachenko? I think that they look at that and like, man, this is a setup. We're not going to take this fight.
Yeah,
give us Devin Haney, or we want titles. We want Teofimo. We want Josh Taylor.
And I mean that I think the Teofimo Lopez versus Tank Davis fight would be phenomenal because you have two guys. I mean, obviously there's a chance that both of the guys are scared to pull the trigger and then nothing happens, right? But
yeah,
these are two guys that have one punch knockout power, and we saw a little bit in this fight. Tank has a little more of a chin than I think a lot of people talked about because he took some shots and he really didn't stumble. Right, there was a lot of instances where Barrios hit some nice combinations on him, and Tank was able to withstand them and just keep kind of marching forward. So I think that was great, but let's get to Lomachenko a little bit now because, man, the performance he had against Nakatani just absolutely reminded us all who he was, right? He was the number one pound for pound before Teofimo Lopez came and upset him. And, coming into this fight, we were wondering kind of what version we were going to see of him. And what we saw was an absolute masterclass. He just destroyed Nakatani. The only hit that Nakatani got on him was the headbutt in the first round that cut him above the forehead. But after that, he was just making a miss, get inside, using that side step. Man, it was beautiful boxing until the 9th round TKO by Lomachenko. What did you see in this fight going back?
It was vintage Vasily Lomachenko. And what I really took from that fight was they did a package before that fight about his fight against Teofimo Lopez. And I don't know if you saw it, but I thought it was first of all, it was very well produced. Everything the Top Rank does is top notch. It's ESPN. Right. ESPN does great work.
Disney money.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Which is odd, right? Like they have the best production, the best packages. They have some of the best fighters. They don't necessarily have the best cards. In my opinion, a PBC card is just gold. And nobody talked about that undercard in the Gervonta Davis fight. What an undercard that was. It was great all around. We got 3 really good fights leading up to Gervonta Davis. And then Gervonta Davis and Barrios delivered, right? So they put on the really good cards. I thought that package was really, really instructive before the Vasily Lomachenko fight because they took you inside that first fight against Teofimo Lopez, and you could see that his corner was basically telling him, when are you going to get started? And it was one of those fights where Lomachenko, I really thought that he stayed admiring what Teofimo Lopez was doing to him and never really got into the fight until about the 6th round.
Yeah, it was too late. He was too scared.
Yeah, and in my opinion, I think he won like 4 of the last 5 rounds. But, you fight 12. That's the problem.
It's like what I mean? Diaz versus Leon Edwards. He almost put Leon out, but before that, he was getting destroyed.
Yeah, the math is working against you, if there were 15 rounds, maybe you can pull it off. But
or
there
was fight with no time limits.
Yeah, exactly. So, was that a feature or was that a bug? You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah. It's up to us, I guess, to decide, right? I tend to believe that, once they ring the bell and, you got your shorts on, you got your boots on, you got your gloves on, it's time to fight. Like when the fight's over, don't make excuses, okay? Oh, my shoulder hurt. Okay, then, but you got into the fight, right? There was chances to postpone the fight or not fight at all. So, I don't buy any of the excuses. I don't think it was a bug. I think it was a feature. I think he's gonna have to get started if he fights him again. If he fights Teofimo Lopez again, and who knows, maybe Teofimo Lopez decides, I'll take my chances again. I think I could beat this guy. If he does fight him again, Vasily Lomachenko is gonna have to put himself more at risk, and he's gonna have to get started much, much faster. Because, what we saw in that first fight, it just looked like he was afraid, like, whoa, this guy hits he's a little bit too strong. Let me ease my way into the fight. Oh, oops, it's the 6th round already.
Right, too late.
You know what I mean? Too late. So,
but as far as the Nakatani fight, man, he was absolutely phenomenal. And looking far as what he needs to get into next, it's before the Teofimo Lopez fight, he was number 1 on the pound for pound list, right? So
Yeah.
for him, getting this win over Nakatani just kind of puts him right back up there. Do you think he should be in line for a title shot next, or do you think he has to win a couple more?
Well, he's top rank, so he'll get the rocket. Top rank will find a way. I don't think it'll happen at 140. Okay, I don't believe he's had a fight at 140. He's had a few at 135. So Vasily Lomachenko will not. I don't think that he'll get a title shot at Josh Taylor. So what is there to do? Maybe Teofimo Lopez again. Where's the big money fight? Probably
Ryan
Tank
Garcia?
Davis. Maybe Ryan Garcia. Although Ryan Garcia is the zone. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't see it. Like, where's the big money fight? Like, if I'm looking at it realistically, what is he going to fight? Richard Comey again? Nobody's interested in. Look, Fortuna. He could fight Javier Fortuna. Like, that's interesting. Like, that'll get eyeballs. That'll get pay-per-view buys. It's kind of an interesting fight. Would they give him Linares again? No. Like, we've seen all of these.
Right. That's the thing. He's ran through all these people. It's so hard to matchmake for him.
Yeah, like, if you just look at the top 10, and although you see all the guys that have, 22-1, 19-2, 36-2, all those guys have one of those losses is to Lomachenko.
Exactly.
On the way up. So you start trying to matchmake, and you're like, no, man, we don't want to see any of this. Like, he beat Luke Campbell already. He beat Richard Comey. We're not interested in none of that. Although they're great fighters. They're just not at his level. Man, Devin Haney, do we want to see that? Devin Haney can't get an opponent. Okay.
Yeah, man. He's sitting down on the side, commentating, asking for fights. I think he called out Teofimo, right?
Yes, after the Linares fight.
Yeah.
And then Teofimo told him, if you're dancing around after round 8 against Linares, what do you think you're going to do against me? Well, let's see it, right?
Exactly.
Stop saying what could happen and actually make it happen, right?
And it would be a great fight to see. And that's another unification bout right there as well. So only brings us one step closer.
Yeah. No, it's they're in a great spot. The problem is nobody's fighting each other, which is unfortunate. I don't know if you saw. I told you I recommended that you watch The Kings on the Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
Did you finally see it?
No, I didn't get to watch it yet. I have to subscribe to Showtime. I don't have Showtime.
Well, you're talking about 4 all-time greats. We're talking about Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler. 4 guys. Between those 4 guys, they had 9 fights against each other. 9. Okay? And we're not talking about 5,000 years ago. Okay? We're talking about the late 80s. All right? So, it happened once before. It's time for it to happen again.
Do you think
there's no reason that if we take Lomachenko, Ryan Garcia, listen to all the names I'm going to mention here, right? We're talking about, and I'm going to count them off. Teofimo Lopez, Vasily Lomachenko, Ryan Garcia, Derek Haney, right? Gervonta Davis, that's 5. Josh Taylor, that's 6. And we're going to cut it off there. That's 6 guys within 5 pounds of each other, which nobody knows who's the best in the world. It's about time that they start fighting each other. That's it.
Do you think the O in boxing is too valuable nowadays? Do you think that having that 0 next to your name is too valuable, and that's causing some of these fighters to not want to fight each other? You lost you there for a second, bud.
That's how they market each other, and that's how they sell tickets. It shouldn't be that way, Manny Pacquiao has 5 losses. Who cares? He's Manny Pacquiao. You know what I mean? Nobody cares if he lost 5 times. Manny Pacquiao is one of the all-time greats. He fights. Butts are going to be in seats. Okay, Sugar Ray Leonard. Look, I'll give you an idea. Sugar Ray Leonard fought Thomas Hearns. Okay, back then there was only the WBC and the WBA title, right? At welterweight, Sugar Ray Leonard was the WBC champion. All right, you got me?
Yeah, you're here.
All right, Sugar Ray Leonard was the WBC champion, and Thomas Hearns was the WBA champion. Okay, they fought at ages 23 and 21 to unify the welterweight title. When do you ever see something like that?
Yeah,
never, right?
No.
Okay, so yeah, it's time. It's time. Enough talking. All these guys. We're talking about it's 6 of them. Okay, we're not talking about 2 or 3, and we got to negotiate. No. There's 6 of them.
There's enough of them to go around.
Yes. Start making these fights. Let's start seeing them happen.
Hey, and hopefully this starts coming soon, man. It is time. That's absolutely time to get these fights coming on. Because with, the way UFC does it is they market as their fighter, right? They need to start doing the same thing in boxing and marketing how these guys perform in the ring, because you can market now still you can still market Mario Barrios for the performance he had against Tank Davis, right? Because he still performed admirably in that fight, and that's what should be pushed more in sports, is kind of how they perform, not just the result at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like it's just time, and the easy part is that the two champions are top ranked guys. Josh Taylor and Teofimo Lopez. So it should be easy. Now, will it be easy? I don't know. Like if you game plan this a little bit, if you're top ranked, like what would you want to do? Well, number one, you will want to keep them from fighting each other, right? You want to have two champions. Okay, start making fights. It's as simple as that.
Right, book him against everybody else.
Have Josh Taylor dust off what he can dust off at 140, and have Teofimo dust off at 135 what he can. And once they're all gone, they fight each other, unify both belts from 135 to 140. Now you have one champ for two divisions.
Have we seen anything like that in boxing outside of Clarissa Shields?
Canelo did it. Canelo held it, but then they stripped him. He was 160 and 168 champ for a while, but then they stripped him. Mikey Garcia that's another thing. Mikey Garcia is the king at 140, been the king at 140 for 5,000 years. He refuses to leave 147, and he wants another fight at 147, although we know he can't fight at 147. Mikey Garcia is a guy that could return to 140, and you're talking about butts and seats. Like, yeah, you could sell out Texas Stadium for a Mikey Garcia, Teofimo Lopez.
And man, that would be fun.
You would put 80,000 people in Texas Stadium.
All of these matchups,
easily.
Almost all of these matchups, you would put. It's just star versus star, right? Yeah. When you have two big ass names, that's what happens, man. That's what happened when you have when we had Floyd against Pacquiao. Obviously, it's not that big, having two mega stars, but you have two young stars that have the potential to be mega stars. Like Tank could be one of those guys that could be a mega star. Teofimo could be one of those guys that could be a mega star. These guys can still do it. Our visions was saying Mikey should go back to 140. I mean,
absolutely,
think we're all in consensus agreement right over here.
Yeah, Mikey Garcia. I'll have the numbers in front of me. Let me go look for it. It's going to take me a second. It's going to take me a second. Where is it at? Okay, Mikey Garcia. All right, you see his Mikey Garcia is 40-1, right? He's 2-1 at 147. He was 38-0 and undisputed champion at 140. Go back to 140.
Yeah, man, that's such a better win ratio.
You know what I mean? And we saw him against Errol Spence. He tried to survive. He was like, "Whoa, like this is I could get hurt here."
Right, man. He's just too big. He's too big, too strong, and you can't. That's a little bit more of a jump. The 7 pounds is a little more of a jump, because that's an extra 10 pounds if you're cutting weight, right? And if a dude has a solid 10-pound frame on him more than you, and you're kind of just jumping up to make that weight, not such an easy thing to do. But what do we have going on as far as future matchups in the boxing world?
I don't have it in front of me, but I could pull that up in a second. I know we have what should be Conor McGregor's funeral coming up.
Yes, so next weekend, obviously, we do have, I think I'm not even sure which one it is, but it's McGregor versus Poirier. That's going to be a fun one. It's, the trilogy, 1-1. Dustin Poirier dusted him up. I mean, we talked about that end over end before that was happening. We both kind of predicted that Dustin was going to mop him with that, and that's what he ended up doing. And I'm going to call it again, man. Dustin's going to mop him again. We're going to have that coming for you next week. It's going to be me, Alf, and we're going to have Ariel on the shows. We're also going to have walkouts and knockouts probably as a post show. I might do a live reaction post show as well, if Alf wants to help me with that, just to see, depending on how big of a funeral we're going to see as far as that UFC fights goes.
Hey, although I will say this. I am going to be rooting for Conor McGregor because I like him around in the sport, but he's a loss away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
by the way, we didn't even mention that Jamel Herring is on the way up to 140. So he's going to, I don't know why he's moving up to 140 to fight who? He's moving up to 135 to fight who? Because nobody's fighting anybody.
No. So
maybe that's one of the guys that they're going to fight. But you asked me what's coming up tomorrow. Carson, California. It's a Showtime card. Chris Colbert is in the main event. It's for interim junior lightweight title. Nobody cares. It's one of those alphabet titles, but it is another junior lightweight. So we're talking about yet another 135 pounder. This is of the prospect kind, but a top-notch prospect. So that'll be interesting. Going forward, Javier Fortuna fights July 9th, which is odd. because that date, I believe. Oh no, the Connor is the 10th or the 9th?
Connor is the 10th. Connor is the 10th.
Okay, that's pretty smart. That they're gonna put Fortuna. Fortuna's gonna fight on the 9th.
Right, which
That's
is
pretty
next
smart.
Friday.
You want to avoid that night.
Yeah.
Then of course July 17th, Jamel Charlo against Brian Castano. That's going to be an interesting fight. The other Charlo brother.
The other one. I got to confuse you last time.
And of course, we close out the month, July 24th, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. So it's an action-packed month, and it gets headlined correctly. 2 heavyweights.
Yeah, man. That's going to be fun to see. And obviously, we're going to keep you right here. We're going to keep you here. Make sure we break down all the fights for you. Take one look back at all the post-fight interviews, or not interviews, post-fights, breaking them all down for you. Any final thoughts on these last 2 fights before we close the show out?
Watch Chris Colbert. If you really want to see what the super lightweight division and the type of talent that there is, watch Chris Colbert on Showtime Saturday night. He's a top prospect. He could be just as good as any of these guys. So watch him. Hey, the more the merrier, right?
Hey, we have 6 right now in the division. Like you said, they had 9 fights between 3 guys or 2 guys or something like that.
Well, 4 guys.
Yeah,
9 fights between 4 guys.
So they should have at least 15 between these 7 guys, 18 between these 7 guys. If the guy tomorrow steps up and takes it in, but we'll keep you covered right here on Fight Week on 5. Alf, I want to thank you for joining me as always. I'm 3-Piece Combo. I want to thank everybody in the viewers for watching as well. Leave your comments and thoughts down below, and make sure you like the video if you liked what you saw. Thanks for checking out Fight Week on 5, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and you guys have a great day.